What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're a catalyst for meaningful conversations. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I go by Sprang, and most weeks we dive into movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. But we don't stop there. We explore the morals, the deeper ideas, and the life lessons that these films offer. Today we are prepping for Alien Romulus, and to get ready for that, we watched all 6 of the other Alien movies, the 4 Sigourney Weaver versions with Ripley, and then the 2 prequels directed by Ridley Scott, Prometheus and Alien Covenant. So we'll discuss all those plot themes. It's the dystopian future, the warning, the sci-fi movies that sometimes give us. So gonna have a lot of fun with that, and have some good conversation. You can follow our movie journey and join the conversation on Instagram at Movies That Make You. And you can also check out all of our lists over on Letterboxd at I Am Sprang. You'll see all the lists that are movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. Drop us a message and let us know what movies have made an impact on your life. Before we dive into this week's episode, here's a sneak peek at the next 4 weeks of what's coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next Monday, we'll be joined by Papa Goss again for The Crow. It's one of his favorite films, and I'm going to rewatch it so I can make sure I'm prepared to have that discussion. But that's in preparation for the fact that they're doing a remake that's dropping that following Friday. The Monday following that is going to be the Fast and Furious series. This is one that Connor wanted to watch, and we set aside some time this summer to knock it out. So the boys have watched the first time. All 10 Fast and Furious films, including Hobbs and Shaw's, to make that 11, including a couple of other little clips and short films that came out between the first few. So we did a full-on everything that Fast and Furious had to offer. We watched that, and we're going to have a big discussion on that, just as kind of a fun one-off series episode. And then the week following that, we're going to be posting our Beetlejuice episode. We watched the original film all together. Kristen's going to be on this episode along with the boys, so we'll have a lot of fun talking that, of course, in preparation for Beetlejuice, the first sequel, Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder. It's going to be awesome. We're excited for it. The week after that, we're going to do a Transformers episode. We've watched 3 of the live-action Transformers movies in preparation for the Transformers animated film, Transformers 1, that drops that following Friday. Hope those episodes excite you, and without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang, and I am joined by my lovely co-host today, Miss Kristen Sprang.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here.
And we are here to discuss one of the best franchises around when it comes to sci-fi and horror, and that is Alien. We watched all 6 movies in preparation for the new movie Alien Romulus. All 6. We did not throw in Alien vs. Predator, and there's 2 of those, so you're welcome. So yes, we watched all 6, and go ahead and get out of the way, Kristen. What are you going to say about all 6?
What I was going to say is I don't really feel that we need to discuss all 6 deep dive because they're pretty generic overview, same story. Got this alien, it's coming for you. It could be sneaky, it could be hiding, it could be like in an egg, and it's going to get the humans. They're going to die, and it's going to continue on. So, I mean, you know, and what was your response to me?
So I'm going to tell you like I tell Colton. Play on an hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm committed, y'all.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. Each of them have their unique things. So I wanna give each of them their due. There are some that are better than others, obviously. But honestly, like, you say all that, we just watched Alien Covenant, and then we went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and you were like, all right, let's see the Romulus in this movie theater.
I mean, IMAX at North Park, Dallas is next level.
Yeah.
Huge. All in your face.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, I think we'll need to figure out, like, find another place to sit in our IMAX to see if it looks bigger. Because I always sit on the front row because I'm always like, that's how big it's going to look, that much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we're missing something by sitting that close. So
could be.
Maybe, yeah. Because I think they're all the IMAXs that are in AMCs are the same size. So it's just a matter of where we're sitting that changes the perspective. So I'm totally down with mixing it up. And they're redoing the one at Firewheel.
I know. I'm so excited.
So I hope that means they're getting better seats. Because
Yeah.
they were like
1980s.
They were the traditional, like, well, not the traditional flat seats, but stadium seating. but it was still like the kick, the flip where the
More
seat
like
flips.
theater
Yeah,
seating, like
theater seats. Yeah,
formal theater.
yeah. And I think with Dolby, the way that Dolby kind of amped it up and went with the reclining seats and the soft seats and stuff, I think that's what they're gonna do with the IMAX theater, kind of bring it into the 2024 instead of being 2000.
Well, we'll let you know, guys.
Yeah, for sure. So before we jump into the movies, like anything you want to share about like life and Olympics and
Yeah, it's been
kids?
crazy. Busy, busy. First off, Olympics started. That has been such a cool thing to watch. I got up at 4:40 in the morning one time. I am not an early morning person, but here I am, ready to catch the women's gymnastics trials going, or pregame, basically going into the qualifiers. And so that was fun. And then just catching all the swimming and diving, track, kayak. I mean, it's just been amazing. And wrapping up that and then jumping right into school. So the kids started school this week. We had meet the teacher Monday, Tuesday, cross country meeting Wednesday, and we're just going all in. It's been so busy.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. I just got done with a podcast with Papa Goss for our the Crow episode, which
Woo!
drops next week. But yeah, like it's just school stuff and trying to figure out. Like I'm just like, all right, trying to find schedule and get it on the calendar, because if it's on the calendar, we might have other stuff that gets scheduled on top of it, and then I get flustered when we can't follow the schedule, because it's like I've got stuff I got to do,
It's there for a reason.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Jacob doing football, starting football this week, 6 a.m. Connor's got to be there at 6:20.
Mm-hmm.
So
For cross country.
yeah, they're going to be early. And then nothing for the other two boys just yet, but Colton will end up doing basketball later, and Jacob will do basketball. So that's a little bit different. That's an evening instead of the early morning. But I think Jacob's games are on Tuesdays and Mondays, and then Connor's meets are on Saturdays mainly. So we're going to be busy for the next few months. But
don't worry, guys. We'll make sure we get these podcasts recorded.
Absolutely. We're pre-gaming as much as we can to get these so we have them scheduled and out. And and be sure to tune in next week when you get to hear something I share with Papa Goss about 2025.
Ooh.
So it's pretty fun. I don't want to give it away here because I gave it away there. So
I want to hear it.
Well, cool. Well, let's jump in to these movies. Like before we kind of dive into it in particular, like this series, like before watching these Alien movies, like what other Alien movies had you seen? Like not this series, but just like sci-fi movies with aliens in them. Like
The Predator was one. Men in Black, great classic. But I really didn't watch too many. No, hang on. There was also the one where it was in the fields. Signs, thank you. Yes. And
War of the Worlds. Had you seen that one with Tom Cruise?
Yes, I saw that one I think just once. But I'm not so much, I feel like, into aliens in space. I've seen more of the aliens here on Earth. So yeah, that's about my repertoire.
Yeah, this was the difference. And like we've commented before, like even with like Star Wars and stuff, you're not a big fan of Star Wars. I think mainly just because it's in space.
Yeah, space kind of is weird to me.
Like even Interstellar, we would just watch that with the boys, which that podcast is coming up later in the next few weeks as well with the boys. But you liked it, but it wasn't like grabbing your attention because it's so much in space.
Yeah, I think maybe because it's hard for me to relate. It's hard for me to empathize what they're going through because I've never experienced it. But we do have so many of those movies because it's a fascination of humans.
Yeah. It's like that's what Star Trek called it, the last frontier. And so now we inhabit everywhere that Earth has. So I guess the only other place to go, which I think is what James Cameron found so fascinating, the only other place to go besides space would be deep water. So there's a lot of sci-fi movies that are deep water that we'll probably get to at some point, but like The Abyss is James Cameron. And then there's there's others too, but that comes to mind. But like space is endless, and so
Yeah.
there's so many different aspects to space that you can explore in science fiction. And then it's also the like Interstellar had that same idea, but that we're going to get to later in this film series, which is trying to find somewhere else to live because Earth is destroyed or worn out or you know everything's falling apart, so they're trying to find somewhere else to live. That's one of the key ideas of science fiction as well.
I do have two more that I just remembered. Wall-E,
Mm,
which that was fun because it was more of a cartoonistic Interstellar where we've outlived the Earth. And then Contact. I
mm,
just remembered I actually really enjoyed Contact, and I think that would be fun for us to watch
yeah.
today. I like Jodie Foster, just to kind of see how it pans out these days.
Yeah, and actually I've seen that one time, and I don't know if I just kind of dozed out at the end because I know that there's kind of a twist in that ending, but I don't remember it when I
Hmm.
watched it. I don't remember the experience of watching the film. Like sometimes you have those movies that have a twist and you're like, oh, I remember that moment. And that one's not as much. I think because it was more heady and
Hmm.
maybe where I was in my life, I wasn't fully engaged with it because it was a little bit more cerebral than it was like action. So yeah, I definitely think it'd be worth checking out again, kind of to watch with the kids maybe, or
Yeah.
even just us. But so yeah, that for me, I don't know. I mean, Star Wars is one of my first movies I ever watched, so space and me have always had a relationship. The idea of being other worlds and other aliens and other creatures, and that's just been a commonplace for my fictional living space. Um, but I think Alien in particular, the film franchise is something I came to later just because of it being an R-rated film. I couldn't watch it as a kid. The first one came out in 1979, directed by Ridley Scott. He kind of created this idea. It stars Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, and she's the main character. And one of the things I do want to point out about the first Alien film also is it's more of a haunted house film than it is a sci-fi film.
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
It's Michael Myers in space
Hmm.
because there's a girl that's in this place, and then there's this creature that's trying to track her down and kill everybody, which is a unique thing to the genre at that time. Prior to this, 1977, you had Star Wars. Right before that, you also had um, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, which was a more glorified, beautified, like utopian version of space. This is what space is: perfect. Space is everything. We're going to be there soon, and that's going to be life, and it's just going to be normal, and everything's pretty. But you got to watch out for the AIs. That's what 2001: Space Odyssey is warning us against, robots. And so what's funny in the Alien series is they also have androids. They also have robots that end up being the bad guys also. Um, the AI robots, but they're not operating on their own. They're operating off of the orders of their creators and the people back on Earth that
Hmm.
are wanting to try and take this creature captive or try and use this creature to their own ends.
But we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Before we get to that point, we realize that the androids are working for the bad guys or working for the company um, that's wanting to keep this alien alive. We get introduced a whole bunch of different aspects of this creature, which is
Hmm.
before we ever even see the creature, we get introduced to, like you mentioned before, the big eggs.
Hmm.
So tell them a little bit about the egg things.
So the eggs are large and they kind of have like this opening. There's four corners and almost like a flower opening with the petals out. Well, then they look inside and it's kind of got like this embryonic coating and it just looks really creepy, kind of like you're looking at an embryo basically. Um, and there are just thousands of them all in this one area and it just is like damp and just kind of dank and
Hmm.
I could only imagine the smell.
Right. Well, the interesting thing, crazy thing is what comes out is not the alien.
Right.
It's this face hugger, which is looks like a crab type thing with a big long tail, like a scorpion, that then latches onto someone's face. And why does it do that?
Because then it sticks its tail down the person's mouth, dumps out the alien that inhabits
Yeah,
their core, and then they become the host. It's
they're the
just
host of the alien, so the alien can. Yeah,
circle of life.
it's. I mean, it's. What's interesting is there's a lot of commentary on this movie in particular, how like phallic it is, how male phallic it is, because even the ship that they're on looks like a uterus. So the ships of the Alien franchise look like a uterus, and then the creature that jumps in, sticks its whatever in the person's mouth to plant the egg is very phallic.
Mm-hmm.
So when the face hugger, that's the first thing, is the face hugger grabs a hold of somebody and then they take it back to the ship and we got to get this off, and they can't because they cut into this thing, the blood is acid and it burns it and it's going to kill the person anyway. Then all of a sudden, the face hugger dies and the person's alive and the person's fine and he's eating and he's, oh my gosh, you woke up from like a coma, all this stuff, everybody's great. Like, wow, that was really weird, but glad everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, like, he starts convulsing and he starts grabbing for his chest, and all of a sudden the alien comes out and bursts out. And so it's like this idea of the face hugger planting its egg, planting the inside of this person, and then the whatever person it is, male, female, whatever, you're now the mother of this alien creature, and it's gonna not come out by C-section, by chest section. It's gonna come out through your chest cavity and destroy
chest protrusion.
Yeah.
There we go.
And then that's the first time we actually see the xenomorph, which is the classic alien in Aliens. What we learn about this alien through the first movie is it drools, it's got goo that kind of lends itself around, and instead of kind of getting to see this alien very much, you really don't see very much of it until the very, very end.
Mm-hmm.
But you keep getting these glimpses of it. You get the goo when they're trying to walk around and find it. It's dripping everywhere.
You get the fear, the sense of they're trying to survive, and you know that it's not good.
Yeah, it's dark and scary throughout the whole movie, and then you get to the point where they can try and kill it and get it at least. And I don't even think they kill it. I think in the first movie, Sigourney Weaver Ripley ends up being able to get away in an escape pod and leave the alien on the mothership. So that's actually, they don't even try and kill it in the first movie. They try to kill it, but they don't have any luck. So she gets away. That's the end of the first movie. She gets into her sleep pod, and then away they go. Away she goes. The alien's left on the mothership. Well, Aliens, the second movie, directed by James Cameron, who's one of the best at taking something that someone else did and like making it even better, is that he now changes a little bit of the alien and gives it a little bit more features. And what that ends up doing with the idea of the xenomorph is that it's evolving. Each iteration of the xenomorph evolves when it's reborn. It's now even better. So that's kind of one of the things. It's a killing machine that just is. That's the only reason it exists is to kill. And so each time it's reborn, it's now even better, stronger, faster, scarier, got more features. The biggest feature of the 1986 movie Aliens was that it now has not just one mouth.
Oh, the two. Yes, the protruding one from the middle.
Yeah. And there's a point where, well, again, kind of let's not jump ahead of ourselves, like you mentioned before. We're not
Don't
there
jump
yet.
ahead. We're not there yet.
But Aliens, Sigourney Weaver Ripley takes her life pod, and it basically picks up right after the first movie. And she is salvaged. It's now 50 years later. She's been in cryosleep, so she wakes up and she finds that she's now on another world. Terraformers are on the very planet that found the alien species. So there's another group there that finds her. She lands on there. She also befriends a little girl in this movie, and so she's kind of trying to take this girl under her wing, trying to protect her, all that stuff.
It's more
And
heartfelt, I felt, with the little girl. I think that kind of helped it not just be all the adults running around, all the scientists,
yeah, and I do think there's a cat in this one too, and so that kind of even makes it even more like, because I think the girl has a cat. The Ripley is taking care of the girl, so there's this kind of humanity that comes with that. It's like, okay, this is like an Earth place now instead of just being a space place. It's, this is very similar to Earth, and they're terraforming this planet, which terraforming is the scientific term for making the planet more like Earth. And so, in just another reference to this was Man of Steel. Zod comes to Earth, and he's using the terraformers to try and make Earth more like Krypton, so his people can live. And then Superman has to stop. So that's it's like taking an Earth, a planet, and making it like another planet. So that's not the scientific. I mean, you might look it up. Somebody might look it up, and I might be completely wrong on the details. But the idea is that it's taking the planet, making it like another planet, so that they can inhabit it. Right? Like it's this.
That's the goal.
The goal is like we have to leave Earth. This is, the first movie was 2155, so we're obviously in 205 at this point, if it's 50 years later. So we're distant future, and trying to survive as a species. So this one also took it from being more like a haunted house film. Right, Ridley Scott's the original was very much like we talked about, just a horror film trying to get away from the bad guy. This one becomes more action. James Cameron kind of takes it. The other movie that he did, I know you like Titanic, but the other movie that he did that took it and kind of ran with it was Terminator 2. Terminator 2 was a lot more action-packed than Terminator 1, and he kind of introduced new ideas and introduced all this technology to take it to another level. The alien gets on the ship because it had stowed away on Ripley's escape pod. So that's how it gets to this planet.
Yes, just smart little booger.
Yeah. So this one, she's trying to protect the girl. Mm-hmm. Alien's trying to take everybody out. We see the alien a lot more in this one. And there's more guns. There's Marines that come in, try to take down the alien. Don't have a lot of success. But then, another thing that they introduced in this one that ends up being a staple in sci-fi, and this might not have been the first time it did it, but were these human, or these contraptions where you can get inside it and move things around. So you have to get inside like a exoskeleton of like armor to they used them for moving things off of ships and onto ships, but then later she uses it to actually fight the alien.
Just like Avatar, when they had, and she was in Avatar too. So James Cameron was like, oh yeah, maybe I should call back on that, put it in here. We can be giants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but some way we can't survive against this alien just in our human form. Like there's no way. It's too fast, too strong. It's got its skin is, and its encasing is rock solid. You can't break it. And then if you do break it, it's got acid for blood. So like what?
You're all the way around not going to make it.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah. And so so in this, towards the climax of this film, she gets in one of those cargo movers and uses it as an armor to fight down the alien. And I have to also reference Scream 2, because in Scream 2, there's it's the opening kind of when we first see Randy. Randy's in a classroom, a film class, but they're talking about sequels. Who would want to make a sequel? Sequels suck. And so then they kind of go through, they don't all suck, like Empire Strikes Back. And then Randy says, no, that was part of a trilogy, not a sequel, George Lucas. And then they said, well, Alien's far better than the first. He's like, okay, T2, they referenced that one too. So there's a reference to Aliens being one of the best sequels of all time. It's definitely an amp up because it takes it and kind of runs with it. And James Cameron did a good job in that film of doing that. But in this one, I do believe they are able to end up taking it and fighting off the
Hmm.
alien. And
We
then,
feel like it's exterminated.
yeah,
Feel like, okay, cool beans. We're done.
yeah,
Press on.
let's go. But little did we know, 1992, it was going to happen again.
Aliens to the third.
Some things to comment on this one. It's directed by David Fincher. David Fincher, it was his first feature film. He had done a lot of music videos before this, but this was his first film, and the studio really had their thumb on his back, and were trying to really make him do what they wanted him to do, and not let him direct the movie that he wanted to direct. And so lots of bad blood. I don't even know if he actually finished the movie himself, but he has historically and very emphatically said, "I want nothing to do with you." So he's not done ever. It's not ever done any interviews about it, any director's commentary, any kind of reunions. He's not. He's like, "I'm done." Like you. Like it was his first feature film, a young director. He's got a vision, and obviously we know at this point he's one of the best directors ever.
Yeah.
But at that point, the studio is trying to make a film that they think is going to be good. A lot of times, studios don't know how to make, like the execs don't know what's good. They just know what's commercial and what they feel like is going to sell. And so,
And based on previous films, they kind of have an idea of, hey, this is a storyline. Let's do it.
yeah, yeah. And so that's one of the key things that's disappointing about the film is that, David Fincher didn't get to realize his initial vision because we know that now he's a visionary director. But at the same time, when we watched this a while back. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really really solid film. Um, so escapes Ripley escapes from the last movie, and then crash lands on another planet. And this planet's different than the other planets. This one is a prison planet. And actually, one of the guys, he was a coach in a movie called Rudy. He's not the biggest, not the fastest, not the strongest, but he's got the most heart. Really solid movie. That guy, that coach, actually is the one that is the priest of the prison in this movie. So there's this kind of religious undertone to the film that I thought was really really interesting, and they all want to get better, which is also another thing that we see in other movies and TV around prisons is that Jesus, God, ends up being a source of strength and hope for folks that are kind of at the end of their rope. So this is kind of continuing that on. Unfortunately,
Little visitor came along.
yeah, and the prison is now inhabited by another alien, and this is the one. This is the one that has the iconic scene. So she's in a prison. She's got to get her hair shaved, head shaved, and all that stuff. She ends up getting impregnated by the alien, and so the scene that's the iconic scene where she's in a hallway, backlit. The alien's getting right up close to her face, and then the little mouth guy comes out and gets really close to her while she's just like inching away, trying to get away, and then it runs off. And we're like, why did it run off? And it's because she is hosting a very unique alien, female alien, a mother alien, and we don't get that until the very end, and probably not until even Alien Resurrection. How unique that was, but it's probably in there. I may have just not paid attention, but I do remember a lot that there were quite a few aliens in this one, and hiding in the rafters and things like that while they're doing stuff. Anything that you remember from this one at all?
No, just the fact that there were more. It did have the similar feel as the first one. Well, that's not true. It had the similar feel of being in space. The We are basically just trying to get away from this alien, but there's just more. And self-preservation. I mean, that's kind of the gist of it. What I got, nothing really stood out. Even looking at, honestly, the only thing I like about this cover is it's Alien to the Third. I think that's fun. So,
Yeah. So it's blown up, but it does have a similar feel to the other two films, and it's very dark, very grungy, very kind of dystopian future, which I think kind of commenting back on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And in 1968, very hopeful, very much like this is that everything's pristine in space, everything's beautiful, everything's pretty, everything's perfect. It's this hopeful kind of utopian future that he presents visually, and then of course it goes to dystopian with the AI. But then what's interesting is you get in 1977, you get Star Wars, and that's actually, while it's in space and while it has a lot of the similar like visuals of like 2001 with the spaceships and all that stuff, it's lived in, it's grungy, it's dirty, it's aged. The Millennium Falcon is a huge spaceship that's broken down like your grandfather's old truck. Like it's that, and I think that was unique to the world. That's unique to science fiction, because in science fiction everything's in the future, everything's pretty, everything's perfect, and this is showing a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's actually, it looks futuristic for us, but it's ancient for them. And I think in Alien he does something similar in that he says this is a dystopian future. The future isn't, space isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I should have mentioned this before, but the original tagline for Alien was, in space they don't hear you scream, because no sound in space. So the other two films, the two following films, and I would say the three following films, so the next one that we'll talk about being Resurrection, they all kind of keep that same tone. They keep the same visuals. They keep the same ship looks. They keep the same everything, kind of to hold on to that, what he established in that original film. And this one is just kind of the scenery changes, or maybe there's a different layer of the alien that we get to see. But yeah, like I said, I think the standout for me in Alien 3 was the religious aspect of it, and then also the fact that the alien didn't kill Ripley for some reason, and we find out later it's because she's having an alien in her chest that's about to bust out. So in the I don't remember which cut it is, but at the end of the movie, she ends up, in order to stop the alien from surviving, she ends up jumping into a fiery pit. And in one cut, it's just her falling. In another cut, there's an alien actually, the alien's actually protruding from her chest trying to get out, and she's holding on to it while she's falling. And that's a huge thing. Like, she self-sacrificed, all that stuff. And then also that this alien inside of her is a unique thing, not like the other aliens. The other aliens are males trying to survive, trying to protect the queen. So anyway, cool. So Alien Resurrection, we just recently watched this one. This one came out actually not that long after, just 5 years after Alien 3, but it's 200 years after the third one.
Yeah, so this one was kind of unique where the scientists had cloned her. They're hoping to create this weapon out of the mother alien, and you can tell throughout, I mean, you have like that evil scientist feel where they're not doing something good. So we think as viewers, okay, why are you trying to create an alien? Like, we know that they're not good. We know they want to destroy humans, but they know that she hosted one, and here she is again. So that was a different twist.
Yeah, different twist. So it's not all the same. Interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. But I think that this is where it kind of really dives in deep and says that that this is a very unique alien. They actually, the way that we get introduced to the movie is got these kind of like, not bounty hunters, but these scavengers, and they've got a ship full of cargo. We don't know what the cargo is, but we got people like Winona Ryder, Dominique Pignon, Michael Wincott, which we're going to talk about again next week in the Crow episode. Ron Perlman, Raymond Cruz, which I know from Clear and Present Danger, and also, which is a Tom Clancy movie, and also he was on a TV show called The Closer. So anyway, just a lot of guys from the 90s. This came out in 97. I remember seeing this in the theater when I was on my junior year of high school. And I liked it. I thought it was fun. And even when we were talking about, I knew we had to watch some alien movies to gear up for this. We had 3 left that we hadn't seen. I said, and I kind of asked you if you wanted to watch this one or the other one, and you said this one. Let's give this one a shot, and you actually liked this one.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought it was unique how the scenes were a little different, where you see the different stages of cloning, you see what they're trying to do towards the end, and you're like, oh, yeah, they're not good.
Yeah.
This just solidifies what we were thinking.
Yeah, the scientists are bad. The company is bad. I mean, and
Because they want to create all these aliens and bring them back to Earth.
yeah, and what I was going to mention too, the scavengers had this cargo, and the cargo ends up being these people that are in cryosleep, and they set them all up with eggs in front of them because they think they can control the aliens with their cool little electricity things. Like they think they're going to stop the aliens from taking over the ship because they're so smart. It's like, you guys obviously don't know these aliens. They're super, super smart. They're going to figure out a way to do it. But yeah, so the cryosleep folks they wake up, and all of a sudden the facehugger jumps on them, and then they birth like 4 or 5 aliens right there. Meanwhile, we don't know what's up with the alien that came out of Ripley, but they talk about it like it's a big deal. And so she's, like we said earlier, she's a mother alien, unique alien, and that's why. And so Ripley kind of has this connection to the alien too that we see later down the road. But I did want to mention one of the best parts about the film was that we even commented on while we were watching it, is like the aliens are like yelling back and forth at each other. They're in this little cage. They try to break out, and then the scientist guy, who's I think in at least in Lord of the Rings, he might have been in Game of Thrones too, but he kind of slams down this button that electrocutes them, and they don't like it. Well,
it's trying to do Pavlov's theory. Yeah,
right. Trying to train them not to kill him, but they don't kill him at that point. But they kill one of their others, and you can see them arguing back and forth, like, which one's it going to be? I guess it's me. And then they destroy him. Why? Because his blood is acid, and it burns a hole in the cage, and they can get out. And now,
so smart.
The rest of the movie, we're trying to get away from the aliens now. But the other scene I thought was kind of hilarious was the basketball scene, because I could kind of tell that Sigourney Weaver's athletic. I mean, she's tall. She's like 6 foot. So, like, you can tell that she played before because of the way that she was handling the ball. But it's also, you could tell she didn't probably play in college. Like, she's probably not that good.
She's good enough.
But she's good enough to pass in the scene, and then Ron Perlman's like being all rizzy on her, and then she's like,
"You said rizzy."
I know, man. Oh, it's just,
we have middle school boys.
It's such a fun scene because like she dunks on him, and she's like all this, and Ron Perlman was definitely what they call chewing the scenery in this movie. Like, he's just on 11 with his energy and his character. Like, I don't know if this was the first film he was ever in, but he definitely was acting everything he was throwing into this character, like just being super extra with all of his delivery and all that stuff. Like I mentioned, Michael Wincott is in this. He's basically the leader of this band of scavengers, and they bring them, and then they're all trying to get off the ship at that point. And the aliens are not having it. The mother morphed, and she evolved by being in Ripley. She also now could just have babies, and they didn't have to have the eggs anymore. So that was the big thing that was kind of going on. So we get lowered into that room with the camera and everything, and we see the big mother, and she's got all this goo, and like humans are like stuck against the walls, and
that was pretty nasty.
Yeah, and then she births the baby alien, and it looks super weird, kind of like humanish, And then what does it do?
Doesn't it try to fight the mom?
Yeah, like,
yeah,
it just destroys the mom.
Yeah, pretty messed up.
Yeah, it's like the beautiful creature that was this mother alien gets destroyed by her own child. What we also find out in this film is Winona Ryder is that each of these films has a android. The androids are the things that kind of help us survive in space. We find out in this one that Winona Ryder is the android, which nobody on the ship knew, nobody in her crew knew, but she's not bad. And that's kind of the first time too that the android's not been working for the company. She actually wants to stop these scientists from doing this with Ripley. She kind of knows all that history and she wants them to stop, but they don't. So the whole ship goes down. I think Ripley survives with Winona, and they buy a hole in the window that then sucks the alien out little by little, and it's super gross.
That was kind of fun. I did enjoy that. Y'all, I can't explain it. There are certain things I'm like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. And then they get away, and seemingly all the aliens are done and gone, and there's no more aliens. That they're all dead.
All dead.
Yep.
Until Prometheus.
Yes.
The search for our beginning could lead to our end.
So the unique thing about this movie is that it came out not advertised, or nobody knew that this was an alien film.
Even the cover, it doesn't show anything like the other aliens. They had that similar look, and this doesn't.
This one was a different kind of movie, directed by Ridley Scott. It's still in space. They're still trying to go to other planets, but the actual alien piece of it ends up coming out more later in the film. And because of that, I did not tell Kristen we were watching an alien movie, and I just pulled up Prometheus and said, what do you think about this? And you said, sure.
Yeah. Like,
looks
all right,
good.
Let's do it.
And then we watched it, and then about 40 minutes in,
I knew it was an alien movie.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is like the look of some of the areas. There were some sculptures or some kind of artifacts in the film, in the scenes, that looked like they were xenomorphs. And then there were like actually like little pillars with liquid in them that were hearkening to the eggs, but they weren't eggs. They were more like, but this one actually has a completely different cast, and it's long before the first Alien movie. It's, if you were doing this by chronological order, it would be Alien vs. Predator, Alien vs. Predator 2, Requiem, and then Prometheus would be the next one in the kind of chronological order of the timeline. And so this is basically a team of explorers trying to find another planet for Earth, humans to inhabit, to try and planets that look like Earth, enough like Earth that they can survive. But they land on this planet. I don't remember exactly why this planet, but it's similar to Earth.
Well, it just popped up. I think that was the thing. It was weird because it just...
I think that was the next one. Covenant. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, I know why. So they get this signal. So the reason they land on this planet is because they get this signal, and it's music. Yeah. Oh, no, that was the second one also. They get this signal, and Noomi Rapace and Logan Marshall Green are husband wife, and they're scientists, and they've been asked by the Wayland Corporation, which we know from the other Alien movies. Wayland, Guy Pearce plays that character, but he's brought them in to help them get to the first people. The first people, she believes that they're talking, that they're the origin of humanity. She's a person of faith, which I think is interesting. That's played out similar to Interstellar, which we're going to talk about with the boys later. But there's a person of faith in this scientific endeavor, which is always kind of like this kind of tension for a lot of Christians, this tension between science and faith. Whereas in these science fiction films, they're trying to explore, like, no, this is still part of faith. You can have faith and still believe in science.
You can still believe in science and have faith. Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. And so she believes that these people have called to us as our creators, and they want to tell us kind of they're the source of maybe where our hope is, where we can find hope again. Turns out no. They just want to destroy them as soon as they wake one up from sleep, and it just destroys them. Try to take off in the ship. They end up having to take it down. They end up killing that person, but then Noomi Rapace and Michael Fassbender, who plays the android on this one, which we know he's an android from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They end up surviving and taking the ship and leaving that planet, seemingly leaving, hoping that they would be leaving the alien behind, but actually it did not get left behind.
As it usually doesn't. It usually will just kind of hang on. Sneaky little bugger, y'all. It will get in there and it will stay to the next movie.
Now, the interesting thing about this one is there's no face huggers in this one. The alien that does end up being birthed and doesn't look like a xenomorph, so it just looks like another alien. It looks weird. But post-credits scene, there is an alien that's in the room. It inhabited the one of the other characters, one of the other creatures, and then when it's birthed out of that creature, it emerges from its cocoon and it's a xenomorph. And that's kind of the first inclination, or the final, like, yes, 100%, this was an alien movie all along.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't see a xenomorph. We didn't see, it was really kind of this kind of origin of the xenomorph is really what it was trying to do something creative, kind of, be a little sneaky with it and tell an origin to the alien without saying, hey, this is the alien's origin.
Right. Especially if people were kind of disinterested after the last couple.
Mm-hmm. But it's cool that it was Ridley Scott because he created it in the first place.
I thought that was
good. And I thought the acting was great. Noomi Rapace did great. Michael Fassbender, Charlize Theron, Idris Elba, like so many great folks in the film. But it is a typical alien movie. Like the alien comes and then people start dying and then they try to get out and get away and all that stuff. But I thought I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it and enjoyed it this time as well. And that one leads directly into the last one that is before the last alien movie we've gotten. This was 2017 called Alien Covenant, also directed by Ridley Scott. And this one is a crew that's also they've got a whole ship full of humans that are in cryosleep. They also have hundreds, if not thousands, of embryos ready to, like, basically rebuild humanity on this planet. They have their sights set on a planet that their research has told them about, and they're headed that way. And then they end up hitting an issue. People have to come out of cryosleep and try and find a place that they can survive.
Yeah, this actually was, I would have to say, my favorite besides the very first. And I think because it had a lot more depth to it than the others did, it helped that they actually landed on a planet that it did look similar to Earth. So that also kind of jives with how the connectivity. And then there was a lot of history there too of that planet. So that was kind of cool to kind of think through, like, what was going on? Like, why are all these skeletons look like they're trying to get out? So it was fun just to kind of go through and see what the steps were.
Yeah. And the movie opens with Michael Fassbender as David, which was his name in the Prometheus film. And Wayland, Guy Pearce, is the younger Guy Pearce. Basically, this was his first android that he built for his company, and him showing him, I'm in control, basically, is Guy Pearce, Wayland's basically trying to prove to the android that I'm in control and you're my servant. That's obviously in the past because it was before the first Prometheus movie. But then we cut to current-ish, like, for the timeline, and it's another David.
Mm-hmm.
But he's called something different. So, like, even the whole time I'm thinking he's just sneaking around and hiding, like, as David, but he's being called something else. But he has a different accent, all this stuff. And so I was a little thrown off by that. But then what we end up finding is while they're trying to survive in this moment, their captain dies. So the new captain comes to be the person in charge, and they're
Who
trying to
also
figure
was
out.
a religious person, which
Yep.
made the crew kind of doubt him a little bit, thinking that his faith would guide him instead of his scientific brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so then that's when they hear music on a transmission, and they're like, maybe there's humans on that planet. And so they divert from their plan to find a closer planet where they can hopefully make it inhabitable for humans. They get there, and there's these spore things that start kicking up dust.
Looks like glitter.
Mm-hmm. And it gets inhaled by a couple of the folks, and then they basically have xenomorphs come out of them. But this is like the first, like this isn't a face hugger. Okay, this isn't what we saw in the last film. This is like a new, like a evolved version of the impregnating, or whatever you want to call it, of the xenomorph.
Kind of like spores.
Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of get a little bit of that vibe from the way that they're placed around, and then they're just kind of investigating, and then it pops and they inhale it, and now they've got an alien inside them. Busts out, runs away. So there's 2 xenomorphs on the planet there that are now going to come after them and try and take them out. Part of the crew is killed. They have to try and figure out a way to get away, which is classic, right? But the twist is that David's on that planet. And so now David is, we find out the other guy was Walter, a different version, another iteration of the David android, and he's more advanced, less human, doesn't think for himself as much. And so it's this kind of interesting dialogue between the two of them as they're trying to,
figure out each other, and then kind of, well, who is better? And, well, I'm here to serve. Okay, well, I'm here to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what we find out towards the middle to the end of the movie is David has been crafting the xenomorphs. He was charged with studying them. Yeah, studying them, helping them develop, and then he basically helps the alien develop its first, with all the humans that with Numi Rapace's character, he used her as a host for the first iteration of the facehugger that he helped develop with the aliens. And so kind of crazy, somehow crafted all that, and then ends up bringing one of the humans down, gets him infected with the facehugger. Now we're into like the class. Okay, that's alien, right? Mm-hmm. It's like these first 2 have been kind of getting us to the point where we're seeing those familiar things that we saw in the first few.
But what was unique about this one too was that original ship was there. Mm-hmm. Remember? And it had all those original pods like we saw. So that was pretty cool. I was kind of like, oh, hang on. Full circle moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They end up getting away. They end up taking down the xenomorphs. They get, pretty cool action sequences using a crane to try and fight the thing off. There's a lot of tension with Danny McBride because his wife was on the planet on the surface and she died, and then he wants to try to get down and save everybody, but there's how do you do it and all this stuff. So
and giant storms on this planet. So it was kind of relatable.
Yeah, interesting. Just interesting different elements to this one that made it so that it made it more difficult to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish, beyond just the xenomorph. And I think, and then what we end up seeing at the end is David comes out. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, we think it's Walter. that comes out and helps them get off the planet. And then as they're putting them away to cryosleep, she says, Catherine Watterson says, when we get to the planet, can you help me build the cabin? And Walter doesn't look like he knows what she's talking about. He said, right, the cabin I was going to build. And then he goes, shh, go to sleep or something like that. And that's when you realize, oh, it's not Walter.
Not Walter. And she's fighting to get out of the cocoon. So yeah, it was, like I said, before The first one, this is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, that's cool. And
Good bookends.
yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was a good, fun action. This one had a lot of good kind of action beats, but also it was a lot of like character development, a lot of storytelling beyond just the alien. It was like getting behind the motivations for the characters and David's character in particular. Like what is his fascination with this, and how is him and Walter different, and all that stuff. So really good film. And all that kind of gears us up to Alien Romulus. That's the next one. Comes out this Friday. A lot of folks are saying it's a great combination of like the first and the second film. Has some of the great sci-fi horror elements, but also has some good action beats. It's directed by Fede Alvarez, who has done things like the Evil Dead remake, Don't Breathe. He also directed the first one. So he's one of those up and coming directors that The Girl in the Spider's Web. So the
Okay.
Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
He directed that one as well, from 2018. So he's kind of an up and coming director. He's given these opportunities to kind of reimagine some of these things, like Evil Dead, to now take the Alien franchise and kind of rethink what this is. I'll tell you, the trailers have looked super scary.
Yeah, they've looked really good.
And like giving us different perspectives that we haven't seen in the other films, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that it's not just more of the same. I really am hoping that we get something different, and I do like the scare. I mean, I think the face grabber is really cool looking. The aliens, not too scary looking. It's just the fear of, oh my gosh, this thing, we don't know what it is. And then we find out, it's got acid in its veins. But so yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see it.
New one stars Kaylee Spaney. She's the main character that we kind of follow around. We know her from Civil War. We also know her. She was in the Bad Times at the El Royale.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah. So she was also in Priscilla.
Which we haven't seen.
Priscilla, which we haven't seen yet.
Oh, so gosh, okay.
So she's kind of an up and coming actress, getting some good opportunities. She was in Civil War as the girl that ends up joining with the reporters.
Okay.
She's a young reporter in that. So she's getting some good opportunities, and this one looks like a good opportunity for her. She's done some of the drama. She's done some of the dystopian future. Now this is her chance to do like a sci-fi action film. So yeah, should be interesting. I really am just, the stuff that we've seen in the trailer has just been unique to this film, and a little bit more modern in the way it's visualizing everything. And so I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep. So
y'all check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
And if you have any favorite parts of the aliens, comment, because I'm interested, especially you moms out there. I want to hear what y'all have to say. You dads too, but just interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are a catalyst for meaningful conversations. We hope that you'll give us a like, a share. Let us know you were here over at our Instagram at Movies That Make You. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. So until next time, keep watching movies.